Hey everybody, I'm at Chalmette Battlefield, just outside of New Orleans, Louisiana, where one of the most famous battles in American history was fought. At the beginning of the 19th century, the United States found itself awkwardly caught in the middle of a massive global war between Great Britain and France. The United States often found itself a pawn in this war, with both the British and the French interfering with American trade. The British kidnapping American sailors, known as impressment, saw some 10,000 American sailors forced into the British Navy from 1799 to 1812. The rise of Napoleon in France only made things worse. His seemingly unstoppable conquest on the continent forced the British to maximize their efforts on the seas. British impressment of American sailors increased, including a brazen attack on the USS Chesapeake in 1807. When the British started arming Native Americans like Tecumseh in the Northwest Territories soon after, the public outcry in the United States only grew louder. In 1812, President James Madison and Congress decided that they had had enough of the bullying and declared war on the British. Meanwhile, the British were still engaged with Napoleon and the French over in Europe, viewing the American part of the war as only a mild distraction. Yet after Napoleon was exiled to Elba in April of 1814, the British gave the United States its full attention. The British launched a series of invasions which saw the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., burned in August. In December, British General Edward Pakenham, a veteran of the Napoleonic Wars, landed 8,000 soldiers south of New Orleans in an attempt to take control of the Mississippi River. Standing in their way was a ragtag army made up of U.S. Army regulars, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Louisiana militia, free black soldiers, and pirate gunners from the famous pirate Jean Lafitte. They were led by 47-year-old Major General Andrew Jackson, in charge of protecting the 7th Military District, which included Louisiana. Jackson was already a colorful character at this point in his career. He had famously killed a man in a duel in 1806 for insulting his wife Rachel, and in 1813 led his Tennessee militia to victory over the Red Stick Indians at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. Jackson was determined to hold New Orleans at all cost. Arriving in the Crescent City on December 1, 1814, Jackson declared martial law and started the process of recruiting as many loyal soldiers as he possibly could. Jackson ordered his men to build fortifications south of the city, at what is now called Chalmette Battlefield. The American ramparts were built in front of a 15-foot wide and 8-foot deep canal with about a dozen cannon along his line of defense. In the meantime, Jackson Americans skirmished with the British several times leading up to the main battle on January 8, 1815. The main thrust of the British attack was to hit Jackson's left side of his entrenchments, which were located on the edge of a swamp. Defending this end was Jackson's militia soldiers, both from Tennessee and Kentucky. Pakenham had predicted that the militia, made up of volunteers, would collapse when the British applied the pressure. They didn't. Once the morning fog had lifted, the advancing British soldiers were mowed down by blistering artillery fire. Pakenham attempted to rally his men by riding forward, but he too was mortally wounded in the fighting. The British forces soon fell into chaos and retreated south along the river. It is estimated that the British lost some 1/4 of their men, around 2,000 killed or wounded. Soon after the British withdrawal, news arrived that the war had actually been over, as the treaty again had been signed between the United States and Great Britain 15 days before in Belgium. The news of the treaty and the Battle of New Orleans arrived across the nation at the same time, leading many to believe that Andrew Jackson's great victory had caused the British to end the war. Jackson became a national hero. The National Intelligencer and Washington Advertiser newspaper proclaimed, "Immortal is the name of Jackson. Immortalized is the city of New Orleans." Today, Chalmette Battlefield is part of the Jean Lafitte National Historic Park and Preserve. It contains a reconstructed American rampart with many examples of period American artillery. It also contains a small museum that tells the story of the battle. There's also the Chalmette Monument, which commemorates the battle, and a Civil War-era national cemetery located in the park. So come see the place that made Andrew Jackson a star at Chalmette Battlefield. It's one of the best places in Louisiana.